I spent over $100,000 in 5 years of my life to study accounting and finance at the Harvard Business School equivalent of Canada. And in just a few years, I've been able to build a multiple six-figure stock investment portfolio, be on track to retire early in my 40s, and have the freedom to work and travel anywhere in the world. I'm currently working from Arequipa, Peru. Now I know that not everyone is able to spend $100,000 in 5 years of their life to learn about how to effectively manage and invest their own money. And so that's why in this video, I'm gonna share the top 5 lessons about money that I learned in university that you need to know if you want to learn how to achieve your financial goals faster with less effort. Also, make sure to stick to the end because I'll be sharing a secret that business students don't want you to know. The first lesson that I learned in business school is something that literally cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars in years of my life. You see, in my accounting class, we're taught to evaluate business decisions based on a simple concept called ROI, also known as return on investment. For example, let's say we're trying to decide which products to sell. Let's say product A will require a $5,000 investment and will generate $10,000 in 1 year, while product B will require a $10,000 investment, but will generate $40,000 within 1 year. And so to evaluate which option we should do, all we need to do is put it into a simple ROI formula. And so based on this formula, the ROI on product A is 50%, while the ROI on product B is 300%. And so in this case, we would go with product B because it provides a much higher ROI. Now, this is really simple, but a common mistake that a lot of people make is that they don't make their decisions based on this formula, like me. You see, when I was in high school and trying to decide which university to go to, I didn't do any ROI calculations. Instead, I just decided to go to the school with the most prestige and the reputation of the program, which is how I ended up at the Ivy Business School, where the total cost of this program was about $100,000 over 4 years. Now, when I graduated, although I started working at one of the top companies in the world, I was only making about $60,000 per year. And the worst part was that I was working with people who went to business programs that costed less than half of my university tuition. And so let's calculate the ROI on this decision. And so assuming I'm working for 5 years making about $60,000 per year, this is the ROI on my university tuition. But if I decided to go to a program that costed half of what I paid, making the same amount of money, this would be the ROI of this decision. And so this decision to pursue a university degree without first calculating the ROI of this decision literally costed me hundreds of thousands of dollars in years of my life. And this leads me to the first lesson I learned, which is when making financial decisions, we need to make decisions based on logic rather than emotions. You see, the reason why most people end up losing a lot of money or making a big financial mistake is simply because they haven't calculated what is logically the best financial decision. Instead, they base their decision based on what they think or feel is the best decision. For example, one of my clients really wanted to pay off her mortgage because she felt chained down by her debt. But when we actually took a look at the numbers, we realized that she would have $400,000 more if she were to invest while paying off her mortgage rather than just trying to pay off her mortgage as soon as possible. And so when she saw the numbers, suddenly she no longer felt chained down by her debt and she decided to invest her money while paying off her mortgage so that she could be in a better financial position. And this is why if you want to learn how to better manage your money, you need to learn how to make financial decisions based on logic rather than emotions. Now, the second lesson that I learned from business school will change your entire perspective about investing. You see, when it comes to investing, we're often taught to try to pick and choose the best stocks to double our money and make us rich. And this is what we tried to do in my portfolio management course, where our final assignment was to use all of the knowledge and tools that we learned in order to build a stock investment portfolio consisting of the top 10 best stocks. And at the end, we would see who made the most amount of money. And so we spent weeks researching market trends, analyzing financial statements, and using fancy calculations to choose the top 10 best stocks. And at the end of the semester, only about 5% of the class actually beat the average market returns, which means 95% of us would have just been better off if we invested into the entire stock market rather than trying to pick and choose individual stocks. And this leads me to the second lesson I learned, which is that the best investing strategy isn't the one that gives you the highest return. The best investing strategy is the one that gives you the highest return with the least amount of time and effort. You see, if you're able to make $1,000 in 1 hour versus $2,000 over 10 hours, you're better off with option 1 because you're able to make more money per hour. And this is why the best investing strategy, especially for beginner investors, is a goal goal-based passive investing strategy. This is where you first set all of your financial goals, and then you create a customized stock investment portfolio for each of your financial goals, with each consisting of about 4 to 5 different ETFs. And there are 3 main benefits to doing this. The first being is that it gives you the highest rates of return for the least amount of time and effort. You see, in my portfolio management class, we spent weeks trying to research the top 10 best stocks to invest in, and yet only 5% of the class was actually able to beat the average market returns. But when you use a goal-based passive investing strategy, you're able to match the average market returns of about 7 to 8% return per year. And I teach my clients how to do this on less than 1 hour per month. And so if you're just getting started with investing, stock picking will often give you a low return with a lot of time and effort, while a goal-based passive investing strategy will give you a high return for a low amount of time and effort. And with the extra time that you have, you can use that to make even more money. The second benefit of a goal-based passive investing strategy is that it allows you to diversify your investments. The problem with investing in individual stocks is that if you invest all of your money into one company and that company goes bankrupt, you lose all of your money. But if you invest your money in a financial product called an ETF that invests in all of the top stocks in a certain location or industry, if one of those companies goes bankrupt, that doesn't matter to you because it's just going to get replaced by the next best company. And so that's why when you invest in ETFs, your investments will never drop down to 0. And lastly, ETFs have significantly lower management fees than mutual funds. Mutual funds are also diversified investments that you can only invest in with a financial advisor. But mutual fund management fees are extremely high, especially in Canada, with an average rate of 2.5%. Meanwhile, the average ETF management fee is only 0.1%. And so although this may not seem like a difference in the short term, in the long run, this will literally cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. For example, if you're investing $20,000 over 30 years with an average rate of return of 8% per year, with mutual funds at the end of 30 years, you'll have $1.2 million. While with ETFs at a lower management fee, you'll have $1.9 million. That's a $700,000 difference. And that's the reason why if you're just getting started with investing, I highly recommend implementing a goal-based passive investing strategy because it'll give you the highest returns from your investments with the least amount of time, effort, and risk. And so if you want to learn how to use a goal-based passive investing strategy so that you can retire young, not old, then get access to my free early retirement workshop. To get it, just go to the link in the description below. Now, have you ever spent hours planning something only for one thing to go wrong and everything changes? Well, that's exactly what happened in my financial planning course in university. And the lesson that I learned completely changed the way that I manage my money today. You see, in my financial planning course, our one and only project was to build a comprehensive financial plan for the rest of our lives. This included how much money we're gonna make, who we're gonna marry, how many kids we're gonna have, when we're gonna retire, and so on. Now, although this plan looked impressive with dozens of spreadsheets and calculations and assumptions, there was one major problem. The plan was so big and complicated that if just one thing didn't go according to plan, like switching careers, not marrying the right person, interest rates rising, or really anything, the entire plan just fell apart. And this is the problem with traditional financial planning, which is where people spend thousands of dollars to get this big fancy financial plan from their financial planner. But as soon as something changes, they have to go back to their financial planner, pay them another couple thousands of dollars in order to get a new plan. And that's the reason why I decided to create my own simple financial plan, where it tracks just 3 things: my current financial situation, my financial goals, and a plan to bridge the gap. And the best part is that if anything changes, I can easily update the plan and it will instantly tell me exactly what I need to do to get to my financial goals. It's kind of like the difference between a paper map versus Google Maps. If you're trying to get somewhere following a paper map, if there's a road closure or anything happens, then you need a completely new map. But if you have Google Maps, if anything happens, it automatically calculates the next best path for you to follow. And that brings me to the third lesson I learned, which is that a financial plan isn't meant to predict the future. It's meant to help you adapt to it. The plan should be flexible enough to adapt to any changes in your life and practical enough so that you can update it on your own without needing to spend thousands of dollars to get a new plan from your financial planner. And this is why I help my clients learn how to build their own financial plans so that they can make any changes when things don't go according to plan. And things will change because that's life. But if you have a plan that helps you course correct, you'll at least know that you're moving in the right direction. Now, if I could just share one lesson with you from all of my 4 years of university, it would be this. You see, before going to university, I actually never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I feel like most people hear the success stories and the sexy side of entrepreneurship. But growing up, I watched my dad try and start many businesses and fail. And so all I wanted was to get a stable 9-to-5 job with health benefits. Until I took my tax course. This is where I learned that not all forms of income are worth the same. You see, there are 3 main types of income: employment income, business income, and investment income. And out of all 3, employment income is the worst type of income because it's taxed at the highest rates. For example, if you're making over $500,000 in Canada, you have to pay more than 50% of your income directly into taxes. To put this into perspective, you're working 12 months a year, but only getting paid for half of those months. And there's not much you can do other than trying to put some money in an RSP. Meanwhile, business and investment income are a lot more tax efficient. For example, with business income, there are 3 main benefits. The first being is that you're able to reduce your taxable income with any eligible business expenses. So if you have to buy a laptop, travel, pay your phone bill, all of these are eligible expenses that you can use to pay less taxes. Secondly, your business gets taxed at a much lower tax rate. In Canada, if your business is making less than $500,000 per year, your business is only going to be taxed at about 10 to 12%. And so this is much better than the personal tax rates. And lastly, with business income, you're actually able to choose how much money you get paid for the year, which essentially means that you get to choose how much taxes you pay. And so this gives you a lot more flexibility and options when it comes to tax planning. And investment income is also very tax efficient. For example, if you buy and sell stocks and make a profit, only 50% of that income is going to be taxed. And so let's say you make $100,000 from your 9-to-5 job, 100% of that is going to be taxed. Meanwhile, if you make $100,000 through investment income, then only 50% of that is going to be taxed. Not to mention, with investment income, you can use things like the TFSA and RSP to just completely not pay any taxes. And so that's the reason why business and investment income are 10 times more efficient than employment income. But the thing is, most people don't know this. And so they spend all of their time and energy focused on their 9-to-5 job, working overtime, trying to climb the corporate ladder. But this is the least efficient way of making money. But if you spend some of that time, energy, and money to start a business and to invest your money, you'll be able to not only make more money, but keep more of it. This is honestly how I've been able to achieve so many of my financial goals in such a short amount of time. It's not necessarily that I'm working overtime and constantly working. It's simply because I allocate my time, energy, and money on more efficient ways of making money. Remember, it doesn't matter how much money that you make. What matters is how much money you keep. The 5th lesson that I learned in business school was a really hard pill for me to swallow. But if you don't come from a rich or well-connected family, you need to hear this. You see, when I was in business school, everyone was applying for summer internships. And so after spending hours updating my resume and sending in applications, I got 0 callbacks in interviews. Meanwhile, a lot of my classmates were getting jobs left and right. And for many of them, it was simply because their family had powerful connections. You see, the Ivy Business School attracted students from some of the most wealthiest families in Canada. In contrast, I'm from a Chinese and Korean immigrant family where we came to Canada with 0 money and 0 connections. Like, my mom is a nurse, and unfortunately, she doesn't know any powerful executives or CEOs looking to hire me. And so for a while, I'll be honest, I was really frustrated because it felt so unfair. But then I realized I had a choice to make. I could either keep complaining about how unfair things were, or I could start creating my own opportunities. And so I decided that if I don't have any powerful connections or opportunities, it's my responsibility to go out and create them. And so that's when I decided to start networking. I've reached out to hundreds of strangers on LinkedIn, traveled to Toronto to meet up with them, and attended in-person networking events and conferences. I even taught myself website development and started building websites for small businesses so that I can, number 1, pay the bills, and number 2, get some relevant work experience. And this is how I landed my first corporate finance job at one of the top companies in the world. And this is the hard lesson that I learned, which is that if you don't come from a rich or well-connected family, you have to work 10 times harder to get the same results as them. For example, if your friends already have a condo lined up for them and they'll inherit lots of money from their parents, they can probably get away working a regular 9-to-5 job, saving 20% of their income. And they'll still be fine. But if you don't come from a rich and well-connected family, if you want to be able to grow and build your wealth, you have to be willing to work harder and smarter. And this is why I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars and years of my life to study accounting and finance in university and hire many coaches to help me learn about how to build a successful business and invest my own money. And honestly, this is what it takes in order to build wealth and get ahead. And so these are the 5 lessons that I learned about money after spending over $100,000 in 5 years of my life to study accounting and finance in university. Now, I want you to know that just because you didn't spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in years of your life doesn't actually mean that you're behind or at a disadvantage. Because here's the truth that most business students don't want you to know, which is that most of them don't actually know how to manage and invest their own money. Well, it's because business schools typically teach their students about corporate finance and corporate accounting. And they actually rarely teach them about personal finance and personal accounting, which is actually really different. In fact, many of my clients are people who went to business school and are now accountants, actuaries, and working in corporate finance, but they're simply never taught about how to invest their own money, file their own taxes, and plan for their future. Now, the only reason why I was able to learn about how to manage my own money from university was because I had to intentionally choose courses related to personal finance, like taxes, portfolio management, financial planning, and so on. Not the most fun courses, I admit, but very useful. And so just remember that just because you didn't go to business school doesn't mean that you'll never catch up or be good with money. It is 100% possible for you to learn about how to effectively manage and invest your own money, even if you didn't spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and years of your life to study this like me. And this is why I created this YouTube channel, so that I could help you learn how to invest your own money so that you could achieve your financial goals 10 times faster with less effort. And if you want to learn exactly how I'm able to help you do this, then make sure to watch this video next.